How's it going, hockey fans? David here, and today I have a very special guest. He's been on the channel before. Uh, Paul, thanks for coming on. He's a big Blues fan, watches all my videos. And yeah, I said this last time he came on, most knowledgeable person when it comes to hockey that I know. It's been fun when he's come on before, and we have a special segment today called Would You Rather. How's it going, Paul?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me and that nice intro again. I come to you with anything I need to know about Vancouver, so I'm more just the league-wide guy, I guess.
Yeah, no, you are. It's crazy. Like Paul knows stuff on every team. He watches every game. It's really impressive. He's a big Blues fan, and today in Would You Rather, as we saw by the thumbnail, we're going to be asking each other Would You Rather hockey questions. Um, so I'll let Paul ask the first question. We'll ask 11 in total. Paul will ask 6. I will ask 5. And yeah, it should be cool. Questions on all around the league, all sorts of questions. So Paul, you can go first.
All right, yeah, so these are just random questions. There's no real theme around them, just anything we thought would be interesting to ask and talk about. So the first one I have is, would you rather have right now Erik Karlsson's contract means you get the player along with the contract,
Okay.
or Matt Duchene's contract? So going back to two ex-Senators, who would you rather have along with their contract right now?
Okay. So Eric Carlson's his
He
contract,
currently makes 11.5 mil.
okay, for 8 years.
It
And then
was 8 years when it was signed, yeah.
okay, and then Duchesne is like eight around,
Eight mil.
okay. And he was 8 by 8, I'm pretty sure, when he signed last summer.
Yeah.
Uh I'd go Duchesne in this like option because one, I think they're both going to be kind of similar, like in their roles by the time they get older. Duchesne is a year younger, which is a plus, and also I feel the extra like 3.5 mil saved in cap is big, and I think he'll always be, even when he gets older, a reliable third line center at the very least. And I think that's still valuable to a hockey team. Versus Eric Carlson, I can see him being an unreliable third pairing guy by the time like he gets to the end of his career. I know he's obviously not there yet, and he's uh, still a very well respected defenseman in the league. But I going long term, I'd go Duchesne.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. Carlson's probably having the roughest year of his career. Has more injuries. I think it's a groin injury right now. So I don't know. With his history of injuries in the past, you don't want a defenseman that can only play offense who's getting up there in age, making 11.5 million for that much for that term. I don't think it's really manageable given the current cap situation for most teams. So just for the difference in cap, I would have to agree with you, Duchesne, 100%. And I also think he has more upside, more of a chance that he turns his career around, and we can kind of see more of the player he was in Ottawa maybe at some point. I don't know.
No,
We'll have
I
to wait and see.
I agree with that. I didn't even consider injuries, and Carlson's definitely had his fair share. So, uh, yeah, both on the same page there. My first question:
Yeah, let's hear it.
whose ability would you rather have to score goals, Matthews or Pastrnak?
Okay, this is an interesting one. I think I have an answer right away, which I don't know. I don't know how many people would agree with this. I'm gonna have to go Austin Matthews.
Okay.
I oh, this is tough. So I'm just thinking, who would I rather have with the puck on the top of the dots in an important moment of a game, and I think that's got to be Matthews. I think his release is insane, and just that shooter threat on the power play. I think a lot of Pasternak's goals are like cross creases where he already has an empty net. Matthews, like the goalie, is set, ready for the shot, and it still picks the corners every single time. So I think, yeah, I think you can put Matthews with virtually anyone. He doesn't necessarily need Marner, although it helps as we're seeing. But
Mhm.
I think Pastrnak also relies heavily on Marchand, Bergeron to get those opportunities. while Matthews more creates them on his own. They're both, I don't think you can go wrong with either one, but I would rather have Matthews' scoring abilities than Pasternak's.
Yeah,
How about you?
I got to agree because the reason I chose this is because over the past year, their scoring rates have been super close. Last year, Pastrnak had 48 in 70 games. Matthews in 69 had 47. This year, Pastrnak has 9 goals in 9 games. Matthews has 18 goals in 18 games. Like, they both score at incredible rates. So it is tough. But I agree with you. I'd be taking Matthews here. So we've agreed on question 1 and 2 so far. But just because Matthews, he's so dangerous from everywhere, and Pastrnak has a really dangerous shot too. I'm not taking anything away from him. But you see Matthews score from the corner. You see Matthews score from the top of the circle. You see him score on one-timers, toe drag shots. Like, you name it, Matthews can really do it all with that dangerous shot. And just because of that, I'd go him.
Yeah, definitely. So right now we're 2 for 2 on agreeing with each other. Let's see
Yeah.
about this next one. So would you rather have one solid starting goalie that's going to get probably like 60-70% of starts easily,
Mhm.
or would you rather have two decent goalies, more of a 1A, 1B splitting starts? Like none of them are too great, but yeah, which one
Yeah,
would you rather?
it's tough because obviously Vancouver fans we were told that this season would be we'd have the two starting goalies to split role between Demko and Holtby, and last year was very like Markstrom heavy, and Markstrom heavy worked a lot better for us. Now Markstrom's obviously one of the elite goalies in the league, uh, but I'd probably go maybe because of recency bias, but I'd go with that top heavy, that one very strong goalie. Maybe it's because the teams that I grew up watching and had a lot of success were backed by Luongo, who had the most starts in the NHL for like consecutive years. Even though he had Schneider by the end of his time, and then last year Markstrom just carried us. Uh, that one solid starter can steal games, and I think part of it also depends on where you are as a team. If you have a very strong team, then you can always having that reliable goalie might be better. But if you're a team that's depends on your goalie, you need to have that above average goaltending, and I think getting that consistently from a number one guy is big. So
Okay, I fair points, but I'm gonna have to disagree, and it's probably just coming from a Blues fan perspective. We've gone from having the not really a 1A 1B, but we had that solid backup in Allen who could get us wins easily by just playing him against weaker teams and just doing the job. Had a great save percentage the past 2 years as a backup, and now we've gone to kind of just Binner. If Binner loses or has some rough starts consecutively, we're screwed if we need to play our backup Ville Husso, because obviously he's not close to the goalie that Binner is. So just based on that, I would rather have a guy like Jake Allen to more split more starts with Binnington to kind of help out the workload, and so that we can win games when we're playing our backup. I don't like being scared to play a backup. Like they should be able to play against weaker opponents and get the job done, which currently this year is kind of rough for us
yeah,
with the solid starter. I think there's one team in the league that can pull that off, and that's Tampa with Vasilevsky. I think with the team as a whole, you don't need a crazy good starting goalie, but they have it, so it works. Like they don't need a good backup. They play Vasilevsky as much as he wants, and they'll succeed no matter who's in net. And then when playoff time comes, they only need Vazzy. So.
yeah. No, those are also fair points, and definitely when you have a backup that you know is gonna give you a chance to win, that's big. So I get that. So I'll move on to my second question now. And like I said in the
Okay.
intro, Paul's a Blues fan. And let's say, really, even though St. Louis, we were talking about beforehand about St. Louis's recent struggles as of late, but let's say they get out of that division with Colorado and Vegas. And out of all the other teams that are first place in their division, so Toronto and the Canadian division, then you have the Bruins leading their division. And even though Florida is technically listed as first in their division due to games in hand, and I think just who will be the eventual winner, Tampa in the last division, so Toronto, Bruins, and Tampa. which team scares you the most out of those to play if you make it out of your division, and which one the least?
Okay, so for me, I think Tampa scares me the most, definitely. I think they're the best, or at least top two. I would probably have like them, Vegas, Colorado close to each other at the top of the league.
Mhm.
And yeah, they have good goaltending, good defense. I think St. Louis are going to struggle to score on them 5-on-5. And then their power play is lethal, and St. Louis have a horrible penalty kill this year. So definitely they scare me the most, especially with that point line. I
Yeah.
think they just do work on a Blues defense that got considerably worse this season, at least defensively. So then scares me the least would honestly it would be Toronto. And I know I just said they have a uh good power play, and then St. Louis have a horrible PK. But I just feel like traditionally we just match very well against Toronto. Every time we play them, it's never like a blowout. It's always a close game. And I feel like St. Louis play their best in close games, in like one goal games. Like all of their wins this season have been tight games except against Anaheim. So I feel like that would be the easy most I don't know. I'd be more comfortable playing Toronto than Boston or Tampa. And Boston, I don't know. I feel like they have some resentment still towards St. Louis and would just go all out and do anything to beat them. So yeah, Boston would be the number two.
Yeah, I know that would be a crazy series again with Boston to relive the Stanley Cup Finals from a couple years ago. But
Yeah.
if I was coming from your perspective as a Blues fan, I agree with those answers. So yeah, I'll let you ask your next question.
All right. Yeah. So we'll get into this one. This one I think is very interesting. So two guys that signed 1-year contracts this year, kind of like prove me contracts. And they kind of went on teams that I think the players themselves figured they'd be able to succeed on in order to earn themselves a bigger contract. So who would you rather, I guess, extend right now, or your team go after for more longer term based on what they're doing this season? Taylor Hall or Tyson Barrie?
Okay. Uh,
And I know one's a D, one's a forward, so it's not a perfect comparison, but just like who would you rather go after?
am I coming from like I'm the Vancouver Canucks and I'm doing this, or like
Well,
just fan?
I feel like the Canucks, I don't
Okay.
know. I know there was interest in Barry, and they wouldn't really care about Hall, but
Yeah.
I guess just overall, who would
Just
you
over.
rather have if you're the average NHL team?
Yeah. Well, before this season, I think the answer would have been really easy, and I think it would have been Hall because
I
Barry
agree.
was kind of written off last year, but he's really racked up points this season. I don't know. I'm because I would go Tyson Berry, and not because I think he's and this isn't coming from a Canucks fan perspective, because to be honest, I don't think Vancouver needs Tyson Berry right now, even though they expressed interest in them, like you said. But just because Taylor Hall, he's at that age where he's getting to the back nine of his career, and I think he would demand significantly more money. And I think both of these contracts have potential to bring to cause problems in the future for whatever team signs them at the end of them. And I feel like Barry you can get at a better price. And Barry's still definitely a reliable defenseman, even when he wasn't getting points. Like not in his own zone, but even when he wasn't getting points in
At
Toronto.
least offensively.
Yeah, you know he's going to contribute and still make a good first pass. And I don't know, I'd go Tyson Barry, but it's hard just because I don't want to tie that much money up in Hall. And this year he's been given every opportunity on that Buffalo team, but I don't know. I just go with Barry. How about you? It's a good question.
I would honestly have to agree with you.
Okay.
So I feel like a lot of teams look at Taylor Hall from the perspective of him being that heart winner.
Mhm.
But if you actually look at it, the rest of his career, he's never been a consistent like above point per game player except like that 2-year stint, and one he missed like most of the season. I think he played 33 games or something and was on a 92 point pace.
Mhm.
But the rest of his career, he's been more in the 60 point pace range in an 82 game season. And I just feel like we've seen him get demoted from the first line in Buffalo, which at the start of the season, everyone's like, oh, with Eichel, Hall's just
gonna like it.
bound to succeed. And on that power play, the power play I think is top 5 in the league, maybe Buffalo's power play, and Hall is still not at a point per game. I think it's mostly Olafson and Eichel driving that power play. Hall's just the middle guy that barely touches the puck. So I feel like just having Barry as just a power play specialist, you kind of give him Keith Yandel type minutes where he'll put up the points and then just play him with a defensively responsible D. They're doing it perfectly in Edmonton right now, playing him 5-on-5 with Nurse every shift, and then just putting him on that first power play unit with a lot of other talented players. I think Barry still has a bomb of a shot every time McDavid just gives him that chance to rip it. He does, and if it's on net, I haven't seen it not go in. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I would, if I'm just any team in the league, I look at these two players and I would rather have Barry, who would probably take way less money than Hall would, and I think he would be more beneficial to the team. So yeah,
Yeah.
Hall just scares me, I guess. I don't
No,
know.
that me too. That's the reason why I wouldn't do it, just because of that term and commitment. Maybe if I'm a Canucks from the perspective of Vancouver, I would maybe go Hall instead of Barry, just because of the forward. And Barry, he's big on the power play, but we already have Quinn Hughes and even Nate Schmidt for our second unit, who, even though he hasn't produced offensively, I think eventually we'll figure it all out. But yeah, that's a good question. But we're both on the same page there, and I guess we'll get to my third question.
Yeah, go for it.
Imagine the 2018-19 drafts combined, and you have to decide between the two first overall picks. One similar to your last question, one's a forward, one's a defenseman. Would you redraft right now Jack Hughes or Rasmus Dahlin? Dahlin, obviously, an extra couple season or an extra season on Hughes in the league. Uh, average around 0.5 points per game. And this year kind of slowed down a bit in his production. Hughes struggled in his rookie season, is doing better this year. I'm curious to see what you think.
That's a good question. I feel like this is gonna a lot dictate just on recency bias and just me watching both players this season. But honestly, I have not been impressed at all with Darlene. Like you can tell he has the talent, but he's just so bad in his own zone. Like the plays he makes are so questionable. Like he'll make like blind passes 5-on-5 when there's like an opposing player right there to pick it off. I think he's a decent like point man on the power play, but I feel like Hughes has just been so dominant, like 5-on-5, like he's just been skating everywhere this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and he's a year younger. I just feel like there's more potential now we're seeing with Hughes versus Darlene, who we thought he had this potential, and he's never really taken that next step when we all thought he would. Like this year, I think he has like 5 points or something when we expected him to be like an offensive minded D that just puts up numbers close to Makar and Hughes. Honestly, I think that's what most people expected, especially with a Buffalo team that went out and got Hall. Eichel's a year older. They have Olafson, who's not injured now. He was injured last year. So they have an amazing power play, yet Darlene hasn't really racked up that many points. And yeah, just watching Hughes, he's dynamic every time he's on the ice. He's kind of like Quinn, like he just always wants to touch the puck.
Yeah.
And I just love that from a player that just wants to drive every play. And I think centers are extremely valuable. And if you put him as like a top two center with a more all around center, I think that's a great top two. Like right now in St. Louis, we have O'Reilly and then Shen, who's not as responsible in his own zone, more just the offensive, like just try to drive the play type guy. And I think Hughes would be perfect in that role.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I have nothing really to add to that. I would go Hughes over Dahlin as well. Just yeah, this season especially, maybe it's a recency bias, like you said, but Hughes has looked dynamite for New Jersey from what I've seen of him. So
Yeah, I think we just need to see more of Darlene. Honestly, he hasn't like
yeah,
he hasn't been playing a lot of minutes, and I don't know if that's just his poor performance or it's a coaching thing. I don't know, but we need to see something in order for me to rank him above Hughes or want him more.
yeah,
But yeah, anyways, I'll get to the next would you rather here. So this has been done by multiple teams where they've kind of switched up power plays during the season. Sometimes they stack one unit. Sometimes, like we've seen it mostly in Toronto, honestly. I think that's the most publicized power play where they demoted Tavares and Nylander and then promoted Thornton and Simmons on the first unit. So would you rather have one stacked power play unit, which is what you have right now,
Yeah.
which is where Hughes plays literally the full 2 minutes. The
Mhm.
forwards, most of the time, they get off at a minute 30.
Mhm.
Or would you rather have two decent power play units where they even it out, split it a minute? They just play whoever's fresh, I guess, if like one line has been out there for a long shift before. So
Yeah.
yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if I'm thinking of like the best power plays in the league, you've seen some teams with 2 units really succeed, and you've also seen that one stacked unit. I mean, Edmonton last year led the league in power play goals, and they had that one stacked unit of with McDavid, Draisaitl, that basically Nuge.
Yeah, you can't split units with McDavid and Draisaitl.
No, exactly. So you've seen both ways succeed, and I'd probably go the one unit just because power play when you're playing in the offensive zone, unless like it goes bad, but for the most part you're playing in the offensive zone. I don't feel like it's as exhausting as going back and down the ice, and I feel players can play for 2 minutes, and I would want all my best players out there for the 2 minutes, giving me the best chance to score. So if I was running a team, obviously depends on your guys, and if you have enough to make two stacked units, kind of keep the penalty killers on their toes, and maybe go 2 units. But if I'm just average team, I'm going one unit. How about you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think from a fan perspective, it's a lot more entertaining to have your top five players on the ice at the same time because 5 on 5, you don't really get to see them play with each other.
Hmm.
Like in Toronto, like you never have Matthews on the ice with Tavares. So I feel like as a Toronto fan, you would want to see them on the same unit. And
Yeah,
then from a Blues fan perspective, our power play was struggling with that one unit. And
yeah,
then we kind of switched it. And then last game we went back to one stacked unit because Schwartz was injured. So I guess they felt no need to split power plays. And it was just so much more enjoyable to have Hoffman, Krug, O'Reilly, Perron, Shen on the ice at the same time.
yeah. No, for
So
sure.
yeah.
I agree with
I
that. There you
All
go.
right. Well, let's get to your next one.
Yeah, my next question is which core would you rather have? That of the Washington Capitals or the Pittsburgh Penguins? They're both aging cores. They both have very similar records. Pittsburgh, I think, a win behind. Which core would you rather have?
Okay, so first I got to think of both cores. So I assume Pittsburgh's core would be Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Gensel,
Hmm.
maybe Rust, throwing Rust there. So that's their core. And then versus Washington, Ovechkin, Backstrom, I guess Wilson, Kuznetsov, Carlson, Vrana, those guys.
Yeah.
Uh, Honestly, I'm going to have to say Washington. And that's probably based on this season.
Hmm.
I think Crosby is the best player of of the bunch, but just Malkin, we've seen him be a little iffy this year. I don't know. I don't really know what's up with him.
Very close call.
And on the other hand, Backstrom's having like a career year. I don't think he's ever been on this pace of goal scoring. It's like what we would expect from Ovechkin, but I'm sure he'll pick it up. And Ovi, I think getting up there in age, he'll still score, so he's fine. And then John Carlson, after previous season where he was a Norris candidate throughout the entire season versus Letang, who's just constantly injured,
Yeah.
not very responsible defensively, and really hasn't put up crazy offensive numbers that John Carlson has. I think I'm just going to have to go with Washington, although I do like Gensel. I think Gensel's great and he's young.
Yeah.
And then I like Russ too as a top six guy. So I think there are good things about both cores, but I'm gonna have to go Washington right now.
Yeah. Like you said, they're both very strong cores still, even as all of them are getting up in age. Uh, I would I would agree right now, definitely Washington. The question was right now. So in terms of the question, I agree with you. An interesting spin on it. If it were to go into the future, I would probably choose Pittsburgh just because they're all kind of similar in age right now. And I feel Washington with guys like Wilson, Varane, and Kuznetsov, who are younger and better than the young players in Pittsburgh's core. I feel like they'll just never the next core guys to come will kind of be off in age. I don't know if that makes sense, but you want to have try and build a team of guys with like starting from zero at the same age in there. I don't know. I'd go
Yeah,
maybe.
you want to catch guys entering their primes at around the same time
Yeah, exactly.
to
So maybe,
capitalize on that chance. Yeah.
yeah. So that'd probably be my answer to it. But I'm ready for your next question.
All right. So this is okay. So we saw a couple weeks ago Line getting benched, I think, but that was more just an
Yeah.
unrelated incident, not to like on ice play. But I thought this would be an interesting question. So would you rather your coach, whoever it is, bench a player for an entire period?
Okay.
If they're not performing on the ice, they're having a horrible game. Would you rather they get benched for an entire period? I think Sam Bennett got benched 2 games ago for a full period.
Yeah.
Or would you rather the coach just demote them in the lineup, play them a few shifts on the fourth line, but they still get reps in?
Uh, and okay.
So I guess we can say this from a Vancouver's perspective. Let's say JT Miller
Gets
it makes a horrible turnover that's led to a goal, which has happened this year.
It has happened from everyone. All their best players have.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's say that happens, and then Green's like, finally, I've had enough, even though he never does this. But
Put them down to the
and
field.
then benches Miller. Would you rather him bench Miller in the entire third period,
Yeah. Or
or just demote him to maybe third, fourth line, getting less minutes, maybe plays 4 minutes that period or 2.5? I don't know.
yeah. Either way, it'd be really frustrating. If they had to last the whole game on the third or fourth line, I'd probably go with just the one period bench and then get in the regular rotation. But I'd probably go third or fourth line just because you still get to see them play. I mean, Travis Green loves the lines in a blender, as John Shorthouse, Vancouver's commentator, says. Uh, and we've seen Pedersen go down and play with not because Pedersen's doing bad, just because he wants to mix things up, and we'll see him play with. I've seen him play with Mott and Pearson. Like he mixes it up all the time. So and it's very frustrating to watch. But having one of the players that drives offense and that you know is going to give your team a chance to win in those games be on the bench is just impossible to watch. It's very frustrating. So I'd go with the third or fourth line. You?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think like if they're playing in a top six role every night, like they're not worth having on the bench, even if they're having a good game most of the time.
Yeah.
I think, for example, Calgary, I think they made a mistake benching Bennett for the entire third period because I think he still works hard if he plays in a like on the fourth line. You throw Bennett in with, or like third line, throw him with Lucic and like big hitters. And I think Bennett's still better than the alternatives you have. So yeah, I saw that and didn't really understand it, but
No, for sure. Your best players are your best players for a reason, and I think they know when they mess up or when they're maybe like the line instance where he barks at a coach. You got to set an example, sure, but for the most part, unless it's a like a weird reason like that, uh, I don't think benching them for a period does much in terms of changing them.
exactly, yeah.
So my final question, and if you're a fan of a team, would you rather them have no blue line depth or no forward depth? And if you're the Canucks, you have neither. You have no depth either anywhere, but it's okay. No forward depth and no blue line depth. Which one would you have to choose?
Oof. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to say no forward depth.
Mhm.
And I think the reason is you can rotate your top six more than you normally would. Like normally forwards, your top six are playing like between 15 and 20 minutes a game, but like you've seen Draisaitl and McDavid have games where they've played above 25 minutes, and this year like I've seen O'Reilly play games where he's at like 25 minutes. So I think it's possible to increase the ice time of your top six and then have AHL players fill in fourth lines and then just like don't play them or play them shorthanded somewhere where they'll excel. Maybe throw them on for an energizing shift or something like that. I feel like on defense, it's just so important. Of course, you can just be like LA, just play Doughty the whole game, and then you're fine. It doesn't matter who else you have. but I feel like it's just better to rotate. Like when you have to rotate D lines or you're caught on a long shift and the other team gets changes, you don't want to have AHL defensemen on the ice against like I
Yeah.
don't know a fresh Austin Matthews that hops over the boards. You like it's just so detrimental.
No, that's a good point. And I had my answer kind of in my head before you started talking. So I'm going to say what my answer was. I don't know if you convinced me on it while you were talking. But
Okay.
I would go no depth on the blue line. But I get the offense point. Another point to support you is that you're usually you win games because your best players score your goals. And those best players are in your top six. So you can win games without your out having much forward depth. But I was gonna go blue line depth just because of the minutes thing. Like if you have like a solid 1, 2, 3, and then like a bad 4, 5, 6, like you can play your top two pairings, even if you have one bad defenseman there, and then have that bad third pairing. You can play the top two for like more than like you can play them for like 40, 45 minutes in the game around, even more maybe, depending on who those guys are. But and you can I feel like just because of how little they'll have to play, as long as they can just be even serviceable. Like I remember in the playoffs, Vancouver played Dio Levy when he was on the bottom pairing for like 7 minutes in one of the games. So uh, just because of the way you can work the ice time, I was going to go blue line depth. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. I was kind of working the ice time on offense, but I
yeah,
guess you can do the same thing on defense.
yeah. So last question here.
Yeah, so I got one more here. This is okay. So, would you rather have the Golden Knights helmets,
Oh, like the
you know, the shiny ones that you can
yeah.
see a reflection
Whatever
in,
the other option is, give me that. Yeah. Or
the Detroit Red Wings reverse retro jerseys?
oh no, I'm going gold helmets. Just
You're going
really
gold helmets.
I really didn't think this was gonna happen, but this is my logic because
Okay.
the reverse retros. Because the ugly helmet story, you watch them, you laugh at them, and you're like, wow, those suck and are really ugly. But the reverse retros, like every team comes out with a new jersey. And I know for myself who loves collecting jerseys, it's so exciting when a jersey drops and getting to see your team like on the ice, off the ice, the fans. Like I feel like a jersey is just so much bigger. And it's so like their jerseys are so bad. They look like practice jerseys, and it's so disappointing. Like even when Vancouver
Yeah.
their reverse retros, I think they're not even one of the bottom like reverse retros in the league. Like I bought their reverse retro, but and I was really disappointed. Like imagine like that jersey,
Yeah.
how disappointed would be. So I would go,
Just white, a
yeah,
white jersey.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you though.
uh-huh.
I absolutely hate those Golden Knights helmets. Like if I saw my team wearing that, like the game almost becomes unwatchable. Like I cannot watch. I can't take Ryan Reeves seriously when he has that shiny helmet.
No, I don't like
Like,
it. It's bad. I don't like
yeah.
the Dallas highlighter jerseys either, but they're not as bad as either of those two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the only guy that should wear that helmet is Marc-Andre Fleury. He looks
yeah,
good in it. He actually looks good.
agreed.
But
Good
the
call.
rest of the team, just get rid of it. Make it like, I don't know, if you can make it matte, like gold matte, where it's like, I don't know, less, just don't make it see a reflection, I guess. I don't know.
No, it was too shiny. And I don't know if you saw this, but their AHL team, the Silver Knights, wore like very bright silver helmets too on the same night.
Oh
It was so
no.
bad. Yeah. Anyways, it was
Wow.
so ugly. But
Well, that's the last question I had.
there we go. And
So
I'm up
I
for
think,
mine. So that was fun. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. Let us know what you think. What
yeah,
you
put in uh, your choices for any of these would you rather's, or
yeah
come up with your own questions.
yeah, that'd be cool for sure. And we got to do this again soon, Paul. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on again. I believe
Yeah,
third or fourth time on the channel.
I think
Okay,
now it's fourth. This one's the
four. I want
fourth.
to say four. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for having me on so often.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun every time, and yeah, that's it. If you made it this far, please like, comment, subscribe if you liked what you watched. Follow me on Twitter @FanVancouver, and thanks again, Paul, and go Canucks go.